What's going on, everybody? It's the Book of Clay podcast. I'm Clay Shad. It's been a great week. This past week, had the opportunity to do some vacating. I was on vacation with my family for their birthdays. I've been sick, so I wasn't able to do an episode how I wanted to do. Actually, take the time out and speak. So excuse me if you see me sipping water because still a little sick, still got some form of a cough, cold, that type of thing. And I had a hard time figuring out what message I wanted to get out there. Finally figured it out. I thought about this for a minute. I actually said to myself, I don't know if creating a podcast is for me. Started going through different forms of intrusive thoughts, self-doubt. Typically, whenever you go through setbacks in life, like you have a specific moment in time where you're at the crossroads between what you want to do and what your mind is telling you to do that's actually really not even your thoughts. It's just intrusive thoughts. And, a lot of times people either make or break themselves during this specific time frame because you got what you want to do and then you also have what you don't want to do. And you have to navigate how exactly you're going to get through that specific time frame. And as I was on the flight to Puerto Rico and coming back from Puerto Rico, we experienced a lot of turbulence. If you've been seeing the news recently, they've been hyping this fear of plane crashing. Like, plane crashes happen every day, and the sentiment in the news is that you get on a plane, it's curtains for you probably going down. So it's a lot of turbulence. And I'm not going to lie. It was a couple times on a flight that I started to feel as though I shouldn't have got on the flight. In my mind, I'm thinking, did I make the wrong decision to get on a flight? Because if I did, let that not be today. I need to figure out a way to navigate through this because it's no way this my moment. That same thing's happen in life outside of being on the plane. You got those turbulent time frames. And the difference between you being on a plane and you going throughout your life is the captain navigates the plane. They navigate that turbulence. That's out of your hands unless you know how to fly. When it comes to you and yourself and your mental turbulence, is you. You the captain. How are you going to go about navigating through the turbulence that you have in your internal being? How can you navigate those thoughts? What process do you use to navigate self-doubt, fear, anxiety? I always say to myself, I've been here before. Every challenge, outcome, difficult time, adversity, I've been here before. I've practiced this. I've practiced these moments. I know exactly what it takes to get me out of a slump. Luckily for me, I went to a beautiful island surrounded by family. It was a quick way to get out of the slump. No more speaker's block. I instantly knew what I wanted to talk about. I'm used to navigating through turbulent times. I'm used to navigating through hard times. I've put myself through the training for this specifically. So whenever I go about speaking and whenever I get to talking about a specific topic, I'm not speaking from lack of experience. I'm speaking because I've been through the same things. I know what it's like to have people count you out. I know what it's like to lose it all and try to get it back. I've lost thousands of dollars. Family, friends. I've moved from one career to the next. I've dealt with depression, anxiety. I was able to get myself out of that. So as I sit here and as I go through the thought process of me figuring out if I'm the right person to be portraying these messages on a podcast or in whatever space that I'm speaking, that's the information that I use to get me back to where I was at. I have the experience necessary to do these things, not just from a professional standpoint, but from a personal standpoint as well. These are the things a lot of the time speakers are actually lacking. They want to speak, but they don't speak from what they read. I'm speaking from what I know and what I experience. See, this wisdom ain't coming from learning. This wisdom is coming from actually doing, actually being. Whenever you have hard times, rely on the strength in your movie. You live in a movie. It's supposed to put you deep under for you to figure out how to become a phoenix and rise again. I'm going to get to some steps I use to navigate turbulent times. Life is really, what Wayne said, life is a beach. I'm just playing in the sand. You might get snipped by a crab. You might get caught by a wave, caught by a rip current. How you navigate out of that determines your value. Not saying people who can't get themselves out of hard times are less valuable, but the people who can get themselves out of hard times can help lend a hand to get other people out of hard times. So we need more of those people. I'd rather know how to get myself a life jacket than to have to throw somebody else a life jacket every single time. Or to have a life jacket being thrown at me every single time. You got to identify your weaknesses and know what you need to do to get out of those things. I identified long ago that one of my biggest weaknesses was speaking. I was in high school and I didn't want to speak on the senior project. I used to tell this story to people I was recruiting. I had a fear of public speaking. And now I'm publicly speaking. It's different when you actually go out and chase those weaknesses and hunt them down and actually see yourself accomplishing that and turning that weakness into a strong suit. It's a difference. It's a difference when you know that financially you're not where you want to be and you able to actually take yourself out of that and get you to where you want to be. It's a difference. It's a difference. See, people just be talking. But see, the people I know, the people who I'm around, me, we going to do everything we say we going to do. And all of the weaknesses, we got to get up out of those. We going to turn all of the weaknesses into our strengths. You going to turn your weaknesses into strengths. It's a must. If you lack confidence, figure out what's going to make you more confident. If you got a low self-esteem, you got to figure out how you can boost yourself up and figure out how to get your self-esteem at an all-time high. We know how to build our fashion, but we don't know how to build ourselves. We know how to make a social media profile, but we don't know how to make ourselves. It's essential. Every single person on this planet know what their weaknesses are. And if you don't, man, I ain't even talking to you. You don't know your weaknesses, I ain't talking to you. DM me because you probably need some extra work. I was in that place one time. I ain't know my weaknesses. It took me a minute. It took me a minute to figure out what my weaknesses are. So in order for you to navigate life, you got to identify your weaknesses first because you don't know how you're going to react in those turbulent times. Or you can put yourself through a turbulent time just to identify your weaknesses. I'll give you some free game right there. That means go do something that you know you can't do and then you're going to figure out where your weaknesses are at. That's the way you do it. Quick method. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Step by step. Figure out what you don't like to do and go do it. That's going to identify your weaknesses right there. Matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, the one thing that you don't like doing is one of your weaknesses. I'm speaking in a professional business state, personal growth, self-awareness, motivation. I don't have time for video games. So when a person actually come to you with some information and they know what they talking about and they say it's based on experience and they say, look, bro, this is how I did it. I did it like this, X, Y, and Z. You might want to listen. The key part about wisdom is you cannot learn wisdom. You can only earn wisdom. It's different. They say walk by faith, not by sight. But the key piece in that is you still got to walk. And say learn by faith, not by sight. And walk by faith. That means you got to go do these things and believe that it can be done through that higher power. You got to put foot to ground and get it done. You got to put your feet in it and actually go do it. You got to be who you trying to become. If I sit all day and say, man, I want to be a great public speaker, and I just keep sitting there. Obviously, we know mantras work. If I say this enough times, eventually I'm going to start believing that. I'm going to start wanting to do it. But still, you got to put willpower into it. People judge your skill, I judge your will. You can be skilled all day with no will. You can have the rawest skill possible. You don't got the will to go do it, then what? It's pointless. Long story short, to navigate turbulent times, 1, you got to identify your weaknesses. 2, you got to put that will into it, which means you got to actually go do what you said you're going to do. You got to go do it. It's a must. See, life got a funny way of showing you things, and the teacher's gonna teach. And I like to say that I'm a child of wisdom, meaning I spent a lot of time these past couple years learning the keys of wisdom. I had to analyze, I learned different symbols, numerology, astrology, I meditate. I basically had to learn how to walk again, but in the spiritual realm. Now I'm physically equipped. Well, I know I'm gonna be great, and you could be great. But do you know that you could be great? And do you know that you are great? Hey, man, this the Book of Clay podcast. I'm Clay Shot. I just was living the vida loca in Puerto Rico. I'm feeling good. I got a lot of mental clarity. Life good. I'm learning new things. I feel financially abundant. I'm financially free. I'm just living my best life. And I want everybody to do the same.